Howdy Illuminators, in today's lesson, we're going to really be digging into the why, into our motivation for doing this work. If you've been in recovery before, if you have done any kind of path of transformation, you know it's hard, especially now knowing what we do about the brain and our biology and how our system is not really working in our favor anymore. And we have, for many of us, created a life that doesn't serve our best and highest good. We've recognized that, which is why we're here, and we're ready to do something about it. Right now, having just joined this group recently, you probably got a little fire in your belly and you're like, yes, you came here for a reason. There's something you want to start. There's something you want to stop. You can't continue living the life you've been living, or you've recognized that there's a life that's bigger and more true to who you are and you want to get there. So you're in that space of motivation just naturally right now. And that doesn't last. Motivation isn't a consistent factor in success. Just that natural, like, I'm ready for this, like, that's going to phase out. It just does. That's natural. We become accustomed to the normal of our circumstances, and then we have to do something to kind of level up and to continue doing that. Of course, we're familiar with that, with addiction and how it's progressive. That which once worked doesn't, and you got to up your game, right? You got to have more or something that's more drastic to get the chemicals to release the same way. So we know that, right? Same stuff happens with motivation. I want to go beyond motivation, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The question that I use myself as my guiding light is this aligned with who I want to be, living the life I want to live? That is the question I pose for my decisions, for the relationships in my life, for my circumstances, for where I live. I really tap into, is this aligned with who I want to be, living the life I want to live? When we talk about creating a boldly satisfying life, we are proactive in it. We do not leave our happiness and satisfaction and fulfillment to chance. We are creating it, right? We are going after it and we are allowing it. It's an important element. And we have to have some way to measure that. We need to know who we want to be and the life we want to live. We're going to be expanding on that as we grow. Those ideas will grow. But in your work today, we're going to get into where you are now and where you want to be and who you want to be. So go ahead, if you haven't already, download the field work that's over off to the side in the downloads. Download that and pull that up. And I'm going to go through it with you today, question by question. And you don't have to fill it out right now, but I'm just going to give kind of a rundown on what we're looking at and just fill it out a little more. I'm going to pull it up myself and go through it with you directly, so you're going to see me reading this here. Most of us are here for a reason, as we talked about. So that first question is really tapping into that. It is essential I do this transformation work because. What is at stake for you? Why are you here? Oftentimes, especially if you're just coming into a recovery style program, something's not going right in life, right? Oftentimes we have harmed our loved ones, we have broken relationships, we have consequences we're facing, or we see them coming down the line. What is life going to look like if you don't do this work, right? And that kind of leads into our next question. The reason, could be one, could be many, this transformation must happen in my life right now is what? What is that for you? What is on the line right now? Why have you chosen to start this path at this capacity now? Why does it have to happen at this point? Why not continue how you have been for the next 5 years or 5 months or whatever it is? Why is it crucial to you? There's not a right or wrong here. Why is it crucial to you that you do this transformation now in your life? And all of these are going to be really personal. There's no one way to answer them. They are very specific to your situation. The more you can get into your feelings and your why in life is going to be really important here, and bring in as much as you can as you're thinking about these and filling them out. And just like our last sheet, it's not set in stone. This is going to change and grow as you do. Everything is. This next question is one of my favorites because we often talk about what we do. You go meet someone, you're like, what do you do? What do you do? Here's what I do. What are you doing this weekend? What did you do last summer, right? We're really focused on what we do in this society. And I want to bring our focus to who we are, because the what we do changes, and sometimes it's tied into who we are, and oftentimes it's not, right? It's just something we're doing. Maybe it's been prescribed to us. Maybe we thought we had to do it, whatever reason. So this next question, I want you to really think about the type of person I want to become could be described as what? And maybe you already are becoming this person. If you have been on a path of recovery or healing for a while, you may have already noticed things. One of my biggest ones is people respect me and they trust me and rely on me. What? Me? Like, are you nuts? I used to be the last person you would want to trust. I lied as much as I breathed. Manipulation and lies were just part of my being for most of my life. So now that I'm a person people trust is mind-blowing to me. So that is part of who I want to be. I want to be trustworthy. I want to be reliable. I want to be respectable. I want to be in integrity. Right? I want to be fun. Like, I'm known now for fun, and I love that about myself. So just start thinking the type of person you want to be. What are some of those traits, some of those qualities, maybe things you already have worked for and you love in yourself. Maybe someone has recognized it in you and they say, you know, wow, you really are so committed to your life, to your family, whatever it might be. I want you to just put as much as you can, take up more room if you need to, just really get it out there. The type of person you want to be, want to become. I want to be really specific on this, and it will grow. Now the tough stuff, right? In order to become the person I want to be and live my life fully, I would have to start the following. So now you know who you want to be, and it'll shift, it's okay. But now you have an idea of the person you want to become. What are you going to have to start to make that happen? Like, say, if I said I want to be really fit, okay, well, I'm going to need to start having proper nutrition for that. And I'm going to need to start an exercise program that I can stick with, right? Or if I said I want to be someone who's trustworthy, well, then I need to start telling the truth, right? So look at those things and just get an idea of what you would have to start in your life. And don't worry, you're not committing to doing it. But if you aren't that person yet, you're going to have to work for it, right? We don't do fingers crossed, just hoping my happiness is going to come. No, we're proactive here. That's why we're on the path of self-mastery, right? So what would you need to start? And don't worry, you don't have to start it today, but just get an idea. Similarly, in order to become the person I want to be and live my life fully, I would have to stop the following. So with our examples from before, if I want to be fit, well, I would need to stop eating the Ninja Turtle diet, which is what I call it when I eat nothing but pizza. I don't feel really fit when I'm doing that, right? I would need to stop oversleeping and do my exercise that I've set up, right? I don't do that, but that once upon a time, that would be it. Or if I want to be a trustworthy person, well, I need to stop lying. I need to stop trying to control everyone around me. I need to stop second guessing myself. I need to start having trust in myself. So those are going to be some of the things. Some of them might just be the opposite of what you need to start, and some might need to be totally different. So just be creative with that and really think about it. And again, you're not committing to stopping it. There's no prescribed anything in here. There's no force. Just because you wrote it doesn't mean you have to do it. We're just building awareness at this point. That's all we're doing. Now, there's a reason we stay the same. There's a reason people stay in the comfort zone instead of moving towards a more full, satisfying life. And oftentimes there's a fear there. There's a fear that we're going to lose something. And so we're clinging to it, right? We want to hang on to it. In this section, I want you to really dive in there, dig deep, and think about and be as honest as you can, not for my sake, but for your own. Don't sell yourself short by putting the answer you think is supposed to be there or the one that would sound good. Who cares if anyone ever reads this? This is for you. It's not a homework assignment. This is for you. So in creating this change, I am afraid I will lose what? The ease of ordering a pizza, just the convenience of that. I'm afraid I'll lose delicious food in my life. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose that sleep from hitting the snooze button. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose my identity. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose this person in my life because we always eat pizza together. I'm giving a weird example, but we're just gonna keep going with it. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose control of my life. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my sense of self, my job, my whatever. Like, just it's so personal depending on what you've put above here, but be honest with that. This one might sound weird, so let me explain, but in creating this change, I'm afraid the outcomes will, right? If we're making changes to be in alignment with who we are and who we want to be in the life we want to live, why would we be afraid of that? The truth is, the brain, our buddy, its top priority is to keep us alive. And since we are currently alive, and I'm going to assume you're alive since you're here, the brain doesn't want to change anything. It likes to stay in homeostasis because we're alive here. It's like, why would you go there? You're so alive right here. You might not be alive if you went over there, right? We want to stay where we know we're going to continue surviving. But we're not okay with that, right? Like, we're moving beyond the brain into our own conscious awareness, and we're not letting the brain dictate it anymore. But the brain is just as afraid of success as it is of failure, because both are changes. We have a built-in system that guards us against change. And it will come up with all of the reasons that we should not make the change, even if it's a positive one. Just because those reasons are there doesn't mean they're true. It is a function of the brain. It's doing its job. Its job is to keep us alive. Our job is to create a boldly satisfying life and be a person we really love. That's our job. We'll let the brain do its job, and sometimes we have to step in and take over for the brain. And we can say, thank you, I hear you, but I probably won't die if I go for that promotion I really want, right? And the brain will be like, are you sure? And you'll be like, yeah, I got this. So this one might be a weird one, but what's the fear there? What are you afraid of with the outcomes? And anytime we're stepping into something new, which a lot of this stuff is, we're afraid of something. So dig in there. I assure you, there's fear there. Fear is a function of the brain to help us stay alive. Fear is our friend. We're going to have a lesson about that. Fear is your best friend for multiple reasons. So we'll just kind of get to know it a little bit now. Next one, to get this change, the process I'm afraid of is what? I'll have to change my nutrition. I will have to finally start showing up. I'm afraid that I'll have to work harder at such and such. Really think about the process, not necessarily the outcome, because we just did that, but the process of getting to that outcome. What are we afraid of with the process itself? And again, not committing to anything. We're just growing our conscious awareness. The ego. The ego is also a friend. All our friends, there are no foes here. Ego is a friend, but it also has a different job and it has different goals than we do. We don't necessarily want the ego to be in the driver's seat, right? Like, that's what we're talking about with self-mastery, that our true selves are running the show. And the ego is going to be there and it helps us with some stuff and it's part of the human condition and we honor that. But maybe we don't let it run the show, right? So we're going to tap into that here. While working on my transformation, the excuses I predict my ego side will come up with to stop are, and they're in there. It's all of those, if you do that, you'll fail. You've never succeeded with that before. nobody's going to like you if you change. You are going to get under the hood and find that everything's way worse than you thought it was going to be. All your fears are going to come true. It's going to start coming up with all of these things. You have already quit so much in life. You've already gone so far. You don't need to do any of this work. You know, you do a lot more than everyone you know, so you don't really have to put any more work in, right? These are all excuses that that ego side comes up with. And it's not like the brain's point is to keep us alive. The ego's goal is to keep itself alive, not against us. It's just kind of its own entity that exists within us, and it is protecting its own survival. And since we don't want the ego to be in charge, and we don't want to continue living as and identifying with that ego side, then those excuses don't serve us. So maybe you already have heard some of them, maybe you're familiar with them, maybe you can come up with some that you anticipate your ego side is going to come up with. But this is what I'm talking about when I say proactive. It means we already know what's coming, and we have created a plan so that when it happens, because it will, your ego is not going to be like, oh, you want to change and you want to give me less control? Fantastic. Like, let me help you. It's not going to do that. It's not. Again, not going to sugarcoat it. That's not going to happen. So let's be responsible. Let's be proactive. What are those excuses going to be? Now here is where the actual action plan comes into play. Take every single excuse that you just came up with and come up with a way that you are going to counter that excuse. If it says, well, you shouldn't do that transformation work because you're going to fail miserably and everyone's going to laugh at you. Well, then I might combat that with saying, what are some things that I've succeeded with in the past? What evidence do I have that I can do this, even something small? Okay, well, I'm going to make a list of those things. And that'll be how I'm going to combat that. Maybe it is, I'm going to reach out to this person and ask for help. Or if my ego side is telling me, you know, you'll never be able to run that marathon, you're out of shape, well, maybe I'm going to go for a run, and I'm just going to go ahead and prove that wrong right away. Whatever those are, they're going to be unique to you. They're going to be unique to your list. But think about what you actually can do to combat those. Maybe it's talking, you know, right to your ego, to yourself. Maybe it's reaching out to another person. It might be a written exercise or activity. It might be a physical exercise or activity. Just put some thought into it. Get creative. And if you aren't sure of some stuff, we can talk about it in tribe session this week. All right. I currently define the idea of my highest self as what? What would that look like for you? What is included in that highest self for you? I'm not going to give any examples or anything because this is so very, very personal. So you can just do a bullet list of words or phrases that connect with you. Maybe you have a description. Maybe it includes how you would be showing up in life or how people would receive you. There could be a spiritual component to that as well. For so many of us, we tap into that and we know that that's there. It's just your idea of your highest self. So really get in detail with this one, get creative with this one, use your imagination if you have to, think big. There's no limits here. Okay, now we got to have some action too, right? We can't just be thinking about stuff. So the daily process I can currently and realistically commit to for my transformation work is, now this doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be impressive. It doesn't have to be a lot of things. The main word that I want you to take away from here is realistically. Back in the day when I was working a full-time job and producing a documentary and starting a company and doing recovery work, well, okay, I can't commit to meditating for 2 hours a day and doing an hour of yoga and doing, you know, all of this other stuff. That wouldn't have been realistic. What I could commit to was journaling 1 page, meditating for 10 minutes, you know, reaching out to my accountability partner via text in the morning. They can be small, they can be simple, they just need to be realistic. They need to be things that you can actually stick with. Now is when I want you to be thinking about something you can commit to. Those other things were just building awareness. I really want to talk about something or some things you can commit to. Maybe you're already doing them. Maybe you already are journaling. Maybe you already are meditating or reaching out with others, or you have a prayer practice. Maybe you already are putting nutritious food inside your body. So continue that, of course, if you already have things in the mix. And then when you're thinking about the why, that like what has brought you here, why is it essential you do this transformational work now? What are you wanting? What can you commit to that is going to aid in that process? You don't have to impress anyone. There's no right or wrong. The only way to do this wrong is if it's not realistic, if you can't actually commit to it. Why set yourself up for failure? I would rather have someone say, I can commit to 1 push-up, and they actually do that push-up, than commit to 100 push-ups and do none. Like, what are you doing? Nothing. And you're gonna hurt your confidence in the meantime. So realistic, okay? Something that fits into your life now that you can actually commit to doing. Okay. We talked a little bit about this with the middle circle, and we're going to dig deeper into it as we continue on. But I want you to tap back into that. And now that you have more of this filled out, I want you to think about the triggers that you know lead you to reacting out, lead you to self-soothing, not self-care, but self-soothing, those things that are already in the mix. Let's just put them on the sheet as well. Maybe some more have come up as you've been doing this work or as you've had some time to think about it. We're going to just really be growing our awareness of those. That is going to be our greatest tool. Self-mastery requires self-reflection, and it requires self-observation and a lot of self-knowledge. So we are going to really, really, really be aware of those things, which is why we're going to just keep touching on it and continue growing that awareness. And if you're not sure what they are, I want you to start noticing. And we will have a practice for that, but I want you to just start noticing and building that awareness. Now, I want you to think about the people or things that depend on you to be your best self. Try to your absolute best ability to not let shame or judgment come into the mix. Because right away it might be like, oh, my spouse depends on me and I've let him down so many times. Or, oh my gosh, my kids depend on me to be my best self and I have just not been present for them as a parent. Whatever it might be, just none of that. It's all there. It's real. We acknowledge it. We're going to work on it. You're already working on it. You're here. You're doing the work. You are walking a difficult path to get into who you really are. So just shame has no benefit at all. None. Not a single bit. If there was an enemy, that would be the enemy. I said there's no foes here, but maybe shame is. Shame, it just isn't helpful. It doesn't benefit you at all. Just let it go. Get that out of there. So really think about who and what is dependent on you being your best self. Okay, this one too, let's just mitigate that shame as much as possible. Maybe you're not feeling any, maybe you've done that work, you've done some forgiveness work, awesome. If I am not my best self, the consequences for the above people or things are what? Maybe it's a job that you haven't been showing up for. Maybe you have a team. Maybe you have a family. Maybe you have a destiny that you're missing out on. Maybe, it can be so many things. And again, they're just there. And let me let you in on a little secret. All of these things that end up on this type of list, there's that flip side, right? However deep we go is how high we can rise. So if there's a lot of things and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many consequences, or there's so many things that I've let down, don't worry, because that all is going to be moved over into such a huge, amazing surplus of positive, beneficial things in your life. Like, it'll be awesome. So be thorough in your list and try to have as little judgment on yourself as possible. Okay, and I know this is kind of a long one, right? But we really want to get in here, and don't think you have to do this all in one sitting. This is some of the most important foundational work we're going to do in here, okay? The beliefs currently limiting my successful transformation are what? I'm a failure, I'm not worth it, I can't do anything right, I always start things and I never finish them, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time, I am unlovable, if people knew me, then they wouldn't even like me, if I get under here and find out who I really am, I'm gonna find out that I am even worse than I thought, that I'm this terrible person. These are all my own. These are not hypothetical. These were my limiting beliefs when I began this journey, along with 100 others, right? So just think about those things that are potentially going to limit your transformation. And again, you don't have to change any of them. We're just putting them down. We're just having awareness around them. We are having a proactive, responsible exploration of ourselves and our lives as we currently are today. Now, don't take this next one lightly. And it might be a tough one for some folks, but I want you to really, really, really tap in and think about it, okay? Change is extremely hard. Yes, it is. But I am worth it because I'm not going to add anything to that. I want you to fill that out, okay? If you don't come up with anything, that's okay too. Let's discuss that in tribe session, okay? Because I wouldn't have been able to answer a damn thing on this question at one point in my life, at many points in my life. Okay, the most exciting one. If I look back at my life 6 months from now, the things I did that made it truly amazing were what? Again, I'm not going to add anything. I want you to fill this out. And I want you to be thinking about what an amazing life 6 months from now would look like. And then think about what was part of that process of getting there. Okay. And this is just kind of a culmination of all of these things you've just brought awareness around, all of this really, really powerful self-exploration you've just done. Now think about that in action in your life and how that has transformed your life into the life you want to live and the person you want to be, which is exactly what we are here doing. So get to work on that. Take all the time you need. Don't be light with it. And by that, I mean, don't just put like 2 things because you want to get it done. Take all the time you need to do this thoroughly. This is setting the foundation, and you want a very strong foundation. And this sheet, just as much as it's important to know your circles so you can use those as a tool, this is going to be your foundation. It's going to be your fuel. This is something that I want you to be referencing. These things can be easy to forget in your moments. And there will be moments when you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? This is so hard. When I open this door, there's just more doors, and I'm doing this work, and then things seem to be getting worse all of a sudden. I want you to have this in your own words to refer back to for why you're doing this. Because yes, we know that all of that is temporary and that things go up and down, and in order to clean the closet, we got to drag it all out, right? And then it looks like the room is a mess. But then we sort it and we clean it and we organize it and we decide what goes back in there. But in the meantime, it looks like a hot mess, right? That's going to happen in this work too. We know that. We know that transformation is messy. And so having this sheet on like, why the fuck am I doing this, is going to be really important, because I can't tell you that. I can't tell you why you're doing this. I can't even give you, my reasons, because my reasons aren't your reasons, and nobody else's reasons are your reasons. And I don't know your destiny. I don't know who you really are. I don't know what you're here to do. I don't know the life you want to live. I don't know what your boldly satisfying life looks like. I can't wait to hear about more of it from you, but I don't know those things. Only you can decide this stuff. It's only inside of you, and this process is going to help you bring it out, and then referring back to the sheet is going to help you remember it, okay? So I want you to go and get to work on this. Be as honest as you can. Be as gracious with yourself as possible, and just, I can't say this enough, really be thorough. Don't worry about the time it takes. I know you're not in here to just skirt by, or you think there's a magic pill, or you think someone's going to do the work for you. You wouldn't be in here. You wouldn't be hanging with me if any of that was in your mind, right? So I know you're here because there's something you want. There's a person you want to be. There's a life you can live, or maybe you just suspect you can live, but it's not that. Sometimes that's enough, right? It's not that. And yeah, it's going to take work to get there. and it's only work you can do, and it's only going to come through you. So that's what we're doing here with this exercise. This is your foundation. Don't sell yourself short. Do your best. It's going to be perfect. I know it. And I look forward to discussing it with you in the next tribe session once you have it done.